See, it's not about coding or programming, not about learning how to do that. It's really about learning how to update ourselves on the new opportunities, but also the new risks and dangers that are coming from the evolution of AI and technologies.
Shiny new toys are great and all, but there's really only one question nearly everyone is asking when it comes to AI. Are we in danger of being replaced? AI thinks faster, combines data more effectively, and isn't burdened with inefficiencies like bathroom breaks and a need for social connections. So how do we fit into all of this? And what do we do to get ready? We're on with Pascal Bornet, a living legend in the AI world with over 20 years' experience in automation. Drawing from his experience living and working everywhere from France and China to Singapore and the United States, he shares what he's learned about the direction AI is taking, what we can do to get ready for the coming change, and how getting ready for the future means tapping into ancient wisdom. I'm Arturo, and this is AI Tool Report Live. All right, today I have the pleasure of being on with Pascal Bornet, founder, author, AI enthusiast, and a veteran of over 2 decades in the industry. Pascal, thank you very much for making the time to be here today.
Thank you, Arturo. That's my pleasure.
All right. So I know you have worked on AI literally around the world, from China and Singapore, San Francisco, Miami, starting in France, of course. What were the early days of AI like? Tell me a little bit about what your early days in automation looked like.
Yeah, it was a lot of VBA at that time. I did a lot of the VBA of Pascal and all those different languages. But VBA was a key one, definitely. But yeah, so what did I like at that time, and what attracted me was these automations like robots, small robots, that you see moving by themselves, and that you are just it's satisfying to see those small things moving by themselves without being living organisms, and you're proud of building those by yourself. But what really got me passionate about the topic, and what I'm currently researching on and what I'm writing about is something that I discovered out of those many projects that I did around the world for implementing AI and automation in different businesses, different industries, different functions. The projects that all worked very well, all had in common one crucial element. They were all putting at the center of the transformations the people, the humans. And so through education, through information, communication, empowerment of those people to use those tools, or incentivization of those people to use those tools. So it's really, that really opened my eyes on the fact that AI without humans is just a waste, and if we don't know how to use AI, we are just missing a huge opportunity, and even taking risks. So it's really about what I like to say. It's solving the equation of human plus AI, where we know quite well the human side of the equation. We work very hard on the AI side of the equation, and we know it quite well now. But really what's making the difference is having the right connection, the right plus between human and AI. And this is where we can create the highest value. And that's where I've been focusing my research over the last 5 years. How can we as humans leverage better AI, and how can we as humans build an AI that can be more useful for humans?
So let's talk about that. What has your research shown? Like, what have you learned in these last 5 years of how we integrate, right? Because one of the fears that I run into as an instructor for companies and for individuals is, am I being replaced? Will
Yes.
AI take my job, my livelihood, and so forth? So what do you say? What does your research show us that I can take back to people and say, no, you're okay.
Yeah.
Here's why.
No, so Arturo, I'm going to tell you the opposite. Yes, AI will take our jobs, and we need to be happy with that. We need to be, I mean, happy. I don't know, but I need at least to be realistic with that.
Hmm.
So the jobs that we currently have, the roles that we are currently accomplishing, will completely be changed in the coming years, and we need to be clear with that in our minds. Only one thing will not change, and this is what we need to work on. It's our skills and our capacity to evolve our skills to adapt to the new reality. Okay, so the jobs of today will change, but one thing will never change is our skills and our capacity to adapt those skills to the new reality.
That makes sense. What do you feel like? What are the industries that are most likely going to be affected in this first wave? Because obviously it will kind of like hit in waves. So what do you think are the first industries to be most affected as AI evolves?
I mean, we've seen we've seen the cinema, the movie industry, we've seen the writing industry, we've seen the call centers. All these industries are already changing so fast, and we don't almost hear about them. I mean, yeah, we hear the demonstrations, and I was just hearing this morning, like the dockers in the US are demonstrating because a large part of it is because automation is taking a lot of their jobs. So it's hitting, and it's gonna only increase. So we need to be ready. We need to be,
And
and
is
and
that
and
what
that's
you mean? Sorry.
no. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Is that what you mean when we have to figure out the plus? Because so like obviously I'm American, I've traveled around the world. You've clearly lived and traveled around the world. And I'm interested because AI brings up interesting conversations around stuff like universal basic income. It brings up stuff around social safety nets, right? Because as we become more increasingly automated, the opportunities that exist change, to your point. I interviewed Dr. Sam Samani a few months ago, and he wrote The Singularity of Hope. And he said, to answer the question of will AI take our jobs, he says, no, AI will do the jobs it was always meant to do. The hard part is we've spent so many years teaching humans to act like machines that now we have to rewind that training and teach them to be creative humans again. So I'm curious what your thoughts are on. I know there's a lot to unpack there, but I'm curious on your ideas of how it looks. Like, how do we evolve a society that is all about meritocracy and moving forward, and like producing when the AI can do so much for us? How do we address that?
Yes. Yeah. So the outcome of my work is a holistic approach that I call that helps us to become irreplaceable. This holistic approach is about implementing the three competencies of the future. You can implement the three competencies of the future at an individual level for ourselves, but we can also implement it at a company level, at an organization level. Okay? Let me explain to you what are the three competencies of the future that helps us to be irreplaceable. The first one is what we see currently is every day there is a new AI tool coming on in the news. Every day we are bombarded with try this one, try this one, try this new shiny AI tool. It's going to do this, it's going to do that, it's going to, okay. So what should we do? I mean, we are just overwhelmed by everything that is thrown at us. We can't try all of them. That's not possible. How do you identify the futile, what is not important from what is important? And this will only increase. The key thing here is that we are living in an exponential world. The world is, I mean, the speed at which it is evolving, boosted by technology, it has an exponential speed, which means it's times two every year, and when you times two, times two, times two, times two, you get to numbers that are just crazy.
Right.
While we humans can only move at a linear pace. So one day after another, 1 + 1 instead of two times two. Okay, so and you can see the gap between our environments that is boosted by technology and our linear capacities that are 1 + 1. This gap is growing, and it's creating high risk for ourselves, for our companies. So this is the first of the 3 competencies of the future, which is being change ready. We need to be ready for exponential change. What we've seen till now is nothing. What we will see in the next 10 years is as many innovations as we've seen in the last century. And it's going to only increase and increase in pace. So we need to retrain ourselves, build whole new levels of adaptability and resilience. I like to say that the winners, the people who will stand out in the future are not the smartest people or the strongest people. They are the people who will be able to adapt. So adaptability and resilience are the most important traits that we should have as an individual level. Okay, and I explain in my book Irreplaceable that just was released a few days ago, how to rebuild basically, because those are resilience and adaptability are strengths that are the reason why we are still on Earth today as a human species,
Right.
and that we need to relearn, because with comfort and with our lifestyle we've lost that. And you said that I was traveling around the world, so I moved. I'm originally from France. I moved to China, where I lived for 5 years. Then I went to Singapore for 6 years. Then in the US currently. Moving from country to country, to culture to different languages and so on is an asset of adaptability that I'm giving to myself, but most importantly to my kids. So I explain in the book how we should trigger our change in our lives, so that we can marry with change, and change when it comes is not an issue. It's part of us. Those are, just to give you examples of what I talk about and how to build those, the change ready competency, which is the first competency. And when you think about a company, I told you that the framework is the same for individuals and for organizations. It's about, for organizations, building the culture and building the structure that makes a company adaptable and resilient in difficult times, and especially with disruptions of new technologies.
It's a really good point, the idea of building resilience, and that we're kind of coming back to a species-wide value that is the reason, to your point, that we're here, right?
Yes.
But
Ancient wisdom. We need to rediscover ancient wisdom to tackle modern issues.
Without a sense of irony, right? Like, we're looking at this ancient hardware that we have within us that we need to apply to this modern technology. And I agree, right? This exponential curve is unsettling and intense and aggressive. And, as I think the last few years as a parent has taught me the same thing, where you watch your kids, like, you have to constantly be adapting. Like, one thing's cool, and then the next day it's completely different, and you're constantly changing, and you can't settle.
Yes.
I have found, to your point, go ahead.
Yes. No, and I explain in the book how 25 years ago, I love backpacking, and I was lucky to spend like about a dozen of days with the Tuaregs in the Sahara Desert, and the learnings I got from spending time with them, and understanding how they are one of the most adaptable and resilient people on Earth, living in the harshest conditions of warmth and draft that you can have in the planet, is incredible. And that's about coming back to the original wisdoms of the ancient wisdom that we have to rediscover to be stronger today.
Okay, so now, and this connects quite well with something that I've discovered and share when I teach, right? Is that I find that the conversation around AI is a lot less technological than I would have assumed when I started on this journey, and a lot more philosophical and cultural, right?
Exactly.
There's
And more
a
and more
lot.
and more and more, more and more. I mean, we see how today, I mean, being a developer today is not the same as being a developer 10 or 20 years ago, where you
Hmm.
needed to know hard coding. Now it's about knowing how to ask the right questions.
So realistically, how do you think this plays out? Because like it's hard for me. So to give you perspective, I grew up in Miami, Florida, right? I had immigrant parents. I was in the military for several years, so I kind of found my way into this resilience accidentally, right? Like I enlisted in the army and the whole thing, and my life has been some there. I gained entrepreneurial impetus, whatever that means. But the reality is, at least in my experience in the West, because we have grown accustomed to air conditioning and the ability to walk to a supermarket or to a corner store to get food, to create artificial challenge is not easy. And there's a
Yes.
billion-dollar industry around fitness, right? Whether it's CrossFit and Tough Mudders and Spartan races, something in us is craving that. Something in us is craving a challenge.
Yes.
But it's hard to go out of your comfort zone when it's like, oh yeah, but it's nice here.
And the crazy thing is our brain needs challenge. So if it's not challenged by external factors, it's gonna create its own challenges, and it's gonna
Hmm.
think, overthink, identify issues that are very small issues, but make them bigger and bigger, so that we have something to think about and something to solve. Because we are solvers as humans, we are
Hmm.
solvers. That's the reason why we are still alive. We've been able to solve problems. If we don't solve problems anymore, we don't exist anymore.
Right,
So
right. And I would argue this exact train of thinking is one of the core things that's responsible, certainly throughout the world, but definitely in my country right now, where we're seeing this like more division than ever between people on certain political spectrums, where we have it so good that we just need to point at a bad guy. We need explanation for why things are not the way we wish it were because we are so accustomed to having things the way we want them to be.
yes.
I don't see a whole lot of outcomes where this like goes easy. I think this is going to be a challenging 10 to 20 years as we start to
Yes.
automate and people start to try to find their place in that.
Yes, and the outcome is increasing number of depressions, increasing amount of distraction. People can't focus anymore. We are goldfish. Goldfish is uh, uh, yeah. Depression and stress I mean the World Health Organization calls stress as the new pandemic, the pandemic of the 21st century.
Wow.
That's that is and I mean, if you have a look to the curves, and it's like increasing like crazy again because of the difference between our environment boosted by technology and ourselves that can
Right.
only evolve at a slow
So
pace.
you have this ancient wisdom craving something, to do something, to be something, to solve something, to fight something. And
Yes.
it's not. You walk out of your house and, okay, that's fine. Right. And you go to work. I can definitely see the cognitive dissonance.
So that's
So,
Arturo, that's the first of the three competencies of the future.
yes.
Yes, and the second one, you will love it because it comes back to your question: how do we connect best with technology? The second one is being AI ready. So the first one was change ready, and think of the three competencies of the future like a tree. The change ready is really about the roots. We have to anchor us into the present and help us against the wind. Wind of change. And the trunk is basically our capacity to elevate ourselves to the sky. Yeah? So to elevate ourselves using technology, using AI. So being AI ready is having the capacity to leverage AI to the maximum, to the largest extent, so that we can augment ourselves. So augmenting some of the activities that we do during the day, uh, especially I mean, when I say augmenting, it means amplifying some of the skills that we have as humans, such as creativity, connections with others, critical thinking. Um, so it's about using AI to do it well, okay? But it's also about using AI to automate some parts of those tasks that are mundane, that are repetitive, that are tedious, that we don't like to do, that are not exciting. And when we automate, we gain time. And this time we can reinvest it into education, into time with our families, with our team members, what we never have the time to do. When we elevate ourselves, we become superhumans. We amplify our strengths. Okay, and so it's about. So I explain in the book a very straightforward approach to identify what are those activities that you want to elevate, what are those activities that you want to automate, and how to do that. That's, for me, that's the plus of the equation, human plus AI. That's the connection. That's where you identify how to play with that and how to embed it in your life and work so that you succeed.
Right. And I think that's very reasonable because I think it's very, I think we've seen a movement, starting with, millennials, elder millennials and so forth that have kind of hit the workforce, and where our parents and grandparents once could do their 25 years at a job, get their watch, have their pension and move on. Very clearly things have changed, right? The cynicism towards loyalty to a corporate behemoth is no longer there. There's a lot of just kind of like mistrust. So when we look at kind of like how people interact, I think there's been this transformation philosophically and mentally where it's not about, I need to go make money. It's like, well, how do I protect my time, right? That's the currency, right? It's not like how much money you give me for my time versus like how much money will you give me so I can go do the things that I want to do. Yes. So with that in mind, I think what's different now, right? We look at the last 50 to 60 years of development in AI, right? We look at the 40s and 50s, AI started kind of coming out. It was interesting, all this like, kind of like NASA punk, sort of Cold War punk vibe of like, what AI could be, the Jetsons coming out of that, right? And then it dies, right? Like in the 60s, 70s, you have this AI winter where like things just kind of lose interest. I think we're at a peak of a hype cycle currently. I think people are going to be a little disappointed in the next year or so with what AI doesn't do because humans are just discontented creatures. And we're going to be like, well, I guess you can't do everything. But I think the dip will be much shorter than we expect, and we're going to come right back out of it pretty quickly. All that is just background to wonder what makes now different, and how do you see us kind of rising with AI? How do we survive the next dip in the hype cycle and stay AI ready?
Very important question. And so to stay AI ready, it's a lot about building what we call the AI literacy. What I call AI literacy is not about coding or programming, not about learning how to do that. It's really about learning how to update ourselves on the new opportunities, but also the new risks and dangers that are coming from the evolution of AI and technologies. So how do you identify what is important from what is not important? What you need to act on from what is not, you don't need to act on, and you would only waste your time and energy. And again, we see every day new news coming, new AI tools coming, and which one should we use? Which one shouldn't we use? It's really about keeping ourselves updated on that, having the right methods and approach to identify what is important, what is not, and very importantly, I told you about becoming superhumans and knowing how to use AI to augment ourselves and to automate a maximum of tasks. But it's also about identifying the limits of those technologies and the dangers they have, they bring, and know how to mitigate them. And I told you so. This is AI ready competency. The AI ready competency is for individuals and again for organizations as well. So for organizations, it's really about being able to implement AI at scale in organizations, and that comes with I share in the book a lot of approaches. One of them that I really like is the virtuous cycle of AI, which is very straightforward, which is how can companies scale AI to the maximum, like a snowball that comes down from a hill and becomes bigger and bigger and bigger, where you identify from the data that you have of your clients or partners, which new product or services you could build based on the insights coming from those clients. Or I mean, it can be from social media, it can be from the use of how your clients use your systems, or it can be just by satisfaction surveys and things like that. Identifying what new services or new products you can build. And because you create new services and new products, you have more clients. And because you have more clients, you have more data. And because you have more data, you have more capacity to innovate and create more. And that's a virtuous cycle that I work. I mean, I'm a consultant, still a consultant. But I work for myself, and that's something that I build for my clients. So it's about building AI at scale and for companies. And a key trend that I see very interesting currently is, this is coming from different studies. We see that 90% of companies are still experimenting with AI. They're still not at having an impact at scale with AI. And on the other side, we see more than 75% of the employees already using on a day-to-day basis AI in their work. So you can see this discrepancy, which means that basically employees are adopting AI faster than their companies. That's a funny thing. That's really funny. And so it means for companies that there is an opportunity to size here, the opportunity to take the hands of their employees, bring them to the right tools, give them the right education. Because another key data is that more than 70% of the employees are using AI that is not sanctioned by their company. So basically, they're not officially authorized by their company. So it's really also about managing the risks as a company. You don't want your people to use systems that can bring some risk into your systems. So for companies, there is a huge opportunity to educate, make sure your employees are using the right systems at the right time for the right things, empower them, so bring them those tools in their hands, and incentivize them to use them. Okay, you want them to use them and to use them the right way. So adapt your KPIs, your indicators of performance, so that you bring them to the right behaviors.
So whose responsibility should that be, right? Like, what are your thoughts on these chief AI officer positions? Like, how do we create the cohesive strategy? Do we need chief AI officers? Does HR take over? Is it IT's job? Like, how do we effectively create AI implementation strategies in companies?
Yes, this is a very good question, because it's a collective responsibility here, and there is one key person who's responsible of this. It's the CEO, basically. Yeah. So CEO and the C-levels are the ones not only to be sponsoring it, but to be involved in it, to show the example, to be the models of the people. And I agree with you that we need less and less of the technical people to be involved in the change management and the adoption, but more and more of the human resources and the people who are closest to the human side of the equation, to be the closest to that.
Okay. So
that's
we've
a
got
good connection to the third competency.
Which I was going to ask. So we've got our roots, we've got our trunk. Where does that leave us?
And so that the top of the tree is the third competency, is about being human ready. Being human ready that's the most important of the three competencies. In a world where AI is doing more and more of the things that we thought were uniquely human, we thought calculating was something that only humans could do, and then we invented calculators. We thought doing matrices and calculation and division and so on. We created Excel that could do it at scale faster and much better than us. And we thought that still writing and creating was something uniquely human. But then generative AI came, and ChatGPT can give you a poem, can create a story for you, can run away, can create a great video from nothing. So what's remaining to us humans? What and for us parents and as workers, what are the skills we need to build? Because we see that AI is taking over all the skills that we have.
So
So
what
that's
is it?
that's
What's left? I need the answer. Don't leave me here. What is it?
so the- so 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 we need to build skills, abilities that will never be taken over by AI. I did a lot of research to find out what are those three uniquely human abilities that I call the humics, and that we need to dedicate all our time and energy to build, because they are the ones with which we create the highest value when we work with AI. The three of them are, first of all, genuine creativity. So I'm thinking here about the real creativity. I'm not thinking about those ChatGPT stories and poems that are just a new combination of existing data. What I'm thinking about here is the human creativity, which is based on novelty. We create something that is really new. It's not just recombining things that are already existing. And our capacity of building novelty as humans is coming from our life stories. We've all been kids before. We've all grown up. We've had stories. We've seen things. We've had experiences as humans that makes us unique. We have emotions, and one of the key emotions that no other entity in the world has is love. And love is something that is the key reason to live. I mean, we have our personalities. We are unique. So all this makes that our creativity can't be coded. It can't be created by anything else than humans. So that's the first thing. That's the first of the three humics. The second one is critical thinking. Critical thinking in the sense of, first of all, being able to work well with AI. AI gives us outcomes, and those outcomes, we shouldn't take them for granted. We should criticize them, review them, question them, and this is what we need to teach our kids to do. We shouldn't ban ChatGPT from schools. We should invite ChatGPT at school so that we can teach kids how to use it and how to use it the right way. That's one thing. The second thing is about critical thinking is about building the rules of our world, of our human world. What is good, what is bad in our world? We don't want any technology to tell us what is ethical or what is not ethical. So basically the ethics is something that only humans, only us can work on. And that's a critical component. So that was the second of the humics. And the third of the humics is social authenticity, in the sense that no one else than humans can understand better another human and can connect better with this other human. So you might tell me, yeah, but look, I mean, I have our smartwatch. My smartwatch knows me better than I even know myself, because it knows my beat per minute, how I slept, how I run this
Right.
morning.
Right.
Okay, but this is just pure data, like, and our watch or our AI doesn't understand this data, truly understand it. It just I mean, even ChatGPT, you talk with it, it seems like a human, like you look. I mean, it looks like you're talking to someone. But again, here it's just probabilities, just the probability that a certain word comes after another word. Okay, it doesn't understand anything. It's just mathematics. It's just empty, basically. So our capacity to connect at a human level with another human is something that will never. So I'm thinking here of communication, empathy, authenticity, in general. So those three humics are extraordinary for many reasons. The first reason is we were all born with them. So it's equal. We are all at the same level. Everyone was born with them. You can go to the kids' playground, see them play and build sandcastles together. They are creating. When a new kid is coming, they say, "Hey, come and play with us." That's social authenticity. When they are playing, they will say, "No, that shouldn't be the rule. I should be this one. You should be." They are questioning. They are debating. That's critical thinking. So we are all born with them. That's the first thing. That's innate. Okay, and the second, even most important thing is we can build them, we can increase them, we can expand them with no limit. And the larger we will build them, the more we will be able to create synergies with the AI. The more we will be able to create synergies with technology in general, because technology will never be able to do what we do. So what does it mean for companies? Companies should build on the humics to create more value. In a world where all companies will use the same AI becoming a commodity, that's coming. It's coming in the coming years. AI is like electricity, is like the wind, like anything, like oil. Everybody everybody has it. So what makes the difference? It's how you combine this technology with the humans you have, and how you create the best plus between those two. So it's about reviewing the job roles so that you combine and make sure that people work well with the AI. I mean, to give you an example, I see a lot of people creating with AI, creating images, for example, with AI. They will think of something. I need this kind of image for the cover of my book. And they will go with this idea, create the cover with showing this and that. Instead, and that's not the right approach, because then you will have an outcome that 90% of the case will not fit what you think, and you will say, okay, this AI doesn't understand, it doesn't do what I want. And okay. The right approach is brainstorm with the AI first. Give to the AI all your ideas, all your feelings. So I want this cover to feel like this. My book is talking about that. I want the people to feel like this. These are the colors or whatever, the shapes or the things that I want to talk about. Brainstorm with it. Have it to give you some options. Select out of those options a few options that you feel are the best. Rework those few options with AI, back and forth. That's a back and forth thing. And then the final option or the two final options, you will add the human touch to that. You will add the ethical aspects to it that only humans can do. Okay, so and this kind of collaboration with AI, no one ever taught us how to do that, because no school. I mean, when we were at school, both of us, AI was far away.
When I was in school, I remember learning how to program in QBasic. To give you an idea of how old I am now. So I think you're dead on. I think the idea of leaning into our humanness is the way forward. I love that you talk about critical thinking and the qualitative necessary creativity that is inherent to human beings. I think it's going to be a rocky road. I think you're asking humans, to Dr. Saman's point, we're asking humans to be what we have spent a long time beating out of them. Go to work, do your job, go home. Go to work, do your job, go home, right?
Exactly.
I think there's this process that we're facing. And I think there's a lot of ways that I don't think the likely scenario is that it all goes haywire and it's the end of human race. I don't think that. I'm not an alarmist, and I don't think that's going to happen. But there are a lot of hiccups along the way. What do you feel are some of the concerning outcomes that we could have that delay our full integration? What are some of the downsides or potential dead ends or kind of trip ups that we face that we have to be wary of?
Yes, one of the key obstacles that I talk about in the book is what I call AI obesity. Think of it like when you compare a fine dining restaurant to a McDonald's or any, I mean, I don't want to give brands, but any fast food.
Hmm.
Fast food is great. We love it. It's sweet. It's fast. It gives you dopamine. You like it. And you go with that, and you're still hungry. I mean, you're hungry. 2 hours later, you're hungry. But we love it. It's dirty, quick,
Right. It's easy.
and
You're
that's
tired. Your
exactly
kids are whining. Right. Yeah. Yes.
and that's exactly what we attempted to do with AI. We do this. We create this article. We create this post, and we just do it like this, and we take for granted what is coming out of AI. We don't even review it. I mean, how many times I see that comments coming on social media or posts or articles that you see that it's. I mean, guys. I mean, like, how can you publish something like that? Just you should review it after that.
Right.
You should put your human touch.
Right.
Put something personal to it. But at least
Or
so I
that
call it
case
the
in New
AI,
York,
the AI
right?
obesity.
Recently.
Say
So
again.
the case in New York where the lawyer just used ChatGPT to cite cases, and the GPT made it up. Right?
Yeah,
It was like an airline case or something. But anyway, that's to your
wow.
point.
Yeah, that's a very good example. Yeah. Uh, so yeah, it's about satisfying ourselves with shallow outcomes, satisfying ourselves with good enough when we can instead of and this is where we are having AI replacing ourselves.
Mm.
We just take it for granted. We don't do anything. It means we are happy to be replaced by AI for AI creating an outcome that is in lower quality than what we used to do. But just because we are lazy, we take it for granted and we don't do anything. Uh, and this is I think, the one of the biggest issue, the biggest risk, because in this process, we also lose our skills.
Mm.
I mean, just to give you an example of how we can easily lose our skills as humans, how many phone numbers do you remember by heart?
I can count them on one hand. I mean, that are
Yes.
still current. Two, mine and my wife's. That's it.
Yes, same for me. How are you still able to use a map when you go into a new city?
Right.
I mean, the most difficult is to know where you are now.
You're absolutely correct.
And
You're
and we
absolutely
and we at least we used maps when we were young, but our kids they can't even read it. They don't. I
right.
mean, but this is not a big issue because those are not skills that are deeply important for us as humans, inherently important for us as humans. But creativity, as I said before, is what is part of who we are. Connectivity with others is part of who we are. The judgment and our capacity to criticize and so on it's really something that we need to keep because these are what makes us human, what makes our humanity. Huh?
Hmm.
So we don't want this to be lost, and this is a big risk. That's a huge risk that
Yeah.
that we don't talk enough about.
Yeah,
And
I agree. And I think that's where we're going to see, as parents, my wife and I discussed this. I'm sure you've brought it up, where I think in the next 20 years, people are going to look back and be like, I'm sorry, you let your kids just use social media without any supervision? That was allowed, right? These, to your point, cheap dopamine hits. Or even like you see modern, groups of people together, quote unquote, but all on their phones, right? Yeah, you're sort of around each other, but there is still a human element, right? Or like,
yes,
like I can't speak to a female experience, but as a man, right? Like we have an entire generation of men that are undertouched, underhugged, under like engaged with socially and physically. And it really continues to fascinate me how AI is really this massive mirror that is forcing us to examine not just the data we're teaching it on, but where that data comes from, right? How we examine
exactly.
ourselves as human beings and how we engage with it and don't engage with it. So
Yes.
it's a really interesting point. So how, I guess, okay, you've got this very large philosophical and social picture that I agree with. I happen to agree with what you've said. How do we motivate an individual human? Because the average person that maybe hasn't lived in China, in Singapore, in Paris, in San Francisco, Miami, right? The average person that hasn't engaged with AI for the better part of 20 years, how does someone like that make the changes necessary? How do we say it's going to be okay? You can do these 2 or 3 things, and here's how we can do that.
Yeah. So that's exactly why I created the 3 competencies of the future. Why I created on top of writing the book Irreplaceable that talks about it, and that explains how to work on and to build those capabilities. I built recently an academy which helps beyond the book on a day-to-day basis to help everyone train and those capabilities and share with the community, share with others, because that's really when we are connected with the community of other people that we grow and that we question each other, we help each other basically. So the first answer to the question is that's exactly, I've asked myself exactly the same question. How can we help everyone to stand out in this future world? And that's my first answer was write the book and build the community to help everyone. And the second answer is actually implement. Everyone should implement actually what I explained in the book and what we have in the community.
I know we're getting short on time, and we just kind of talked about the ways it could go wrong. Where do you see this land? Like, what's your ideal outcome? Tell me what you see and what you hope to see for your kids.
The ideal outcome is a convergence between human and technology versus a technology that becomes more and more intelligent than us, and that is created completely separately from us. I think the connection between this technology and us is what will make sure that there is a convergence and an alignment in the goals that we follow in life and in our world, in our society. The more we disconnect the creation of this technology from us, the more we are taking the risk that something that we can't manage happens, and most importantly, the risk that it doesn't serve us, but it serves maybe people who want to make money or to take power or whatever.
I'm excited, man. I'm excited because every time I do one of these podcasts and I speak to someone with more experience and more background in this world, I keep being excited at just the perspective with which it is. Yes, there's ways it can go wrong, but there's ways everything can go wrong. But for the first time, I think in our history, we are developing something that will actively make us better and better as it goes forth.
Yes.
Like there's no, like everything, even when we developed space flight, nuclear power, that's awesome. I think those are great technologies. But that's a technology that we are still required to adapt, innovate, and build on. AI is the first thing that starts to compound our creativity, our empathy, and our ability to reflect and remember into something wholly new.
Yes, exactly. So I'm very very aligned with what Ray Kurzweil has in mind, when he thinks about us merging with technology in a way that, for example, having our thoughts connected with technology instead of typing with our hands, directly being connected with our thoughts, and amplifying our capacity to reason, to memorize, to directly through the technology. I hope this is the future we will go to, and not an AGI that is a side of us that is built by those giant technology firms to make money and to replace people. Those are the 2 options, and I really hope we will go the fusion way.
And to your point, that's where education just comes into play. We just got to keep bringing everyone that wants to come along. And for now, let's avoid the cheap dopamine and the fast food so we can stay alive and healthy for the singularity.
Exactly.
Pascal, it's been a privilege. Thank you so much for making the time, and it's been great, man. I really hope we can do this again in a few months and see what's changed and what our predictions are for the next coming years.
Thank you, Arturo. That was great. Thanks a lot.
That's all for today's episode. Remember, you can always reach out to apply to be on the podcast or ask a follow-up question of a previous guest. As always, thank you for your support, and we'll see you next time.